All right, thanks for staying tuned. Sheun Okibaloye.
With all sorts of allegations.
Yes, all kinds of allegations.
You running for office, me being on the ballot.
I mean,
but it's okay.
We'll get back to him. We'll get back to him. You know, once we cleaned up the voters register, we'll return to him at some point. You know, but for now, some serious business in this segment. We're being joined by Mr. Dayo Olaide, who is an analyst with the Center for Democracy and Development. Thank you so much. Again, he's one of those we've been talking to from Abuja, but who happens to be in town today. Who is in Lagos today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, as Shehu did inform you before the break, we still have with us the Executive Director of Yaga Africa, Mr. Samson Itodo, and he's in, of course, our Abuja studios. And Mr. Abiodun Ajijola is joining us via Skype from Akure, the Ondo State capital. Gentlemen, thank you all for being with us and for staying with us, as the case may be. Now, I think enough has been said about what went wrong, what went on in the process. What we've tried to do in the last couple of segments is to look ahead now as to what needs to be done. And for that, I'm going to start with you, Abiodun Ajijola. You're a numbers man, but you have also been an observer, a keen observer and follower of election circles in Nigeria. With everything that we've seen in the last 5 weeks, because this election process started about 5 weeks ago, what are the key things that you think need to be attended to almost immediately once we've concluded this process?
Okay. I think first of all, the two issues have to do with the security and the electoral commission. As you know, the security provided environment that will be conducive for the elections to hold, while the electoral commission is expected to conduct the election. When you have problems with the process, it's usually somewhere between these two actors, although there are issues with the political parties. So first of all, I think for the security, I think they have not done too badly. But I think going forward, there has to be some way of discussing or finding out how we can improve the relationship between the security and INEC in terms of coordination, understanding, so that we can have less of the infractions, like, you know, collation officers being detained, or the issues we had where you have a particular polling unit and then security were not there, or, you know, assault came in and they disrupted it in the presence of security. So some of these things need to be improved. Secondly, for the electoral commission, it's very important that some of the things we have seen are clear indications of failure of some actors within the electoral body. Because, for example, if someone is declared as a winner and did not meet the requirements, then this is a direct issue of somebody did that. Or if the returning officer makes cancellation that he is not empowered to do at the polling unit, for example, this is a failure on behalf of that officer. And we've seen some of this play out. And I think that there's a need to sanction people that are responsible for these. Because it's good enough to say that these incidences resulted in certain outcomes which might lead to the tribunal and all of that. But the people that are responsible for this have to be brought to book because somebody did that. If, for example, in an election, collation is going on, all of a sudden a call is received from somebody somewhere saying that collation should be changed to another venue without any appropriate reason whatsoever, and that destabilizes the process, then at the end of the day, that affects the outcome to some extent. Whoever is responsible for that, I think, needs to be brought to book so that we can actually move forward. If you can't disrupt the process, or your actions cannot frustrate the process and nothing is done. Otherwise, this will keep repeating itself. So I think for me, this is very, very significant. For the area of the Electoral Act and all of that, I think there is very important going forward to review it. I was disappointed during the week when the Senate was trying to pass a motion that they want to send the Electoral Act the way they submitted it in November. This was rejected with certain very clear reasons. And then certain things have evolved as a result of the conduct of the 2019 elections. So I would expect that the Senate National Assembly will take enough time to review the the Electoral Act and then, present this for assent. This is what I think. But political party reform, I think, is the most important thing, because at the end of the day, every problem we see in this process comes down to the politicians. The security agents, where they are not manipulated, you find out that in most cases, the politicians are not, interrupting. But once the politicians are having an interest and want to do something desperately, then they begin to intimidate, coerce, bribe, provide finance and all of that. And then that's where the process begins to get messy and all of that.
Okay, Mr. Chisola, we will come back to you shortly, but let's just go over to Plateau State now. Our correspondent, Yemi Kosoko, is going to give us a situation update. Yemi, how far have you gone and what's going on where you are now?
Well, we are right now at the Coalition Center in Jos for the governorship election of Plateau State. The resident election commissioner, as well as the returning officer, are just coming in, and right now they are just coming in for this occasion. And people are just coming in, and we are trying to see how it will go for this coalition. We have the returning officer, Professor Kimber, is here, and as well as the national commissioner, Professor Antonia Simbine. Well, the party agents are around, and of course we have so far 5 local government areas out of the 9 that we are awaiting their results here in Plateau. Well, the 5 that are here are Shendam, Barikin-Ladi, Bassa, as well as Kanam, and just not local government areas. We are still expecting Bokos, Lantan South, Mangu, and Panshin local government respectively. And we believe that in a short while, this coalition will kick off, since 5 of the local government areas are around. And of course, they will be able to go ahead to see that the coalition exercise is done in earnest. Well, that is the situation here in Jos. We are still trying to see what can be done. Well, you'll agree with me that the issue of coalition has been an important thing when it comes to the announcement of results. And we are hoping that it will not be another vigil as it used to be, because the way things are going, with 5 out of the 9 local government areas around, we are expecting 4. And by the time they start to bring in the results, probably before the end of today, we'll be able to get to know really the winner of this contest in Plateau State. Sometimes, just a few days ago, when we were here, it was through the night, and eventually the result was inconclusive because of the margin of lead that was less than the council votes. And we hope that tonight, all those errors that were corrected, and we'll be able to have what we are expecting to do. Well, the agents, the party agents, they are around, and I have probably the APC and the PDP. We have the PDP party agent. Can you come over? Let's have you, and the APC party agent. Yes. Well, You are welcome.
Thank you.
The exercise so far today, this supplementary election.
Yeah.
How has it been?
Well, it has been peaceful, and we're here to have the collation of the results at the INEC headquarters. It's been a long day, and we're about commencing.
Yeah. Well, this is the PDP party agent for this collation. That is Estefanos Gyang. Yeah. And of course, I have the APC coalition party agent here.
Yes.
How has the exercise been this so far?
Well, so far so good. From the reports we're having, it's been very peaceful on the plateau, and we are here ready to receive the results.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, you just heard from the APC and the PDP party agents. Well, all is now set. We have 5 of the local governments so far. We are expecting 4 more, and in a short while, the collation of the supplementary election will commence in earnest. Back to you in Lagos.
All right, thanks a lot, Yemi, over there from Jos, the Plateau State. Interesting. I mean, he was just trying to get his bearings, seeing that they're just starting off.
The events were just
so if you saw him moving around and looking a bit, shall I say, concerned?
Flustered.
Yes. Exactly. It's just because he was trying to move away while the
people to pass and to get in.
Exactly. So they have 5 local government areas, and they're waiting for 4 more.
4.
So hopefully we should.
And he believes that before the end of the day,
yeah.
That the results are in. Again, I suspect that's a hope, because already this is this well after 9.
Well,
Laddie, please don't take that word, Laddie. But I think we should bring in Daya now to tell us.
Yeah, no, but you put somebody on pause.
No, let's leave him on pause first. We'll come back to you, Mr. Adijala. Let's bring in Daya. Daya sitting there. Daya heard Yemi with us. So Daya, from what you heard our correspondent tell us, what do you think? Do you think it will come to an end today?
Well, I want to hope that it will.
Yeah, hope again.
Not just in Plateau now. I mean, the entire thing.
Yeah. I think at this stage, hope is the only thing that we can actually hold on to. I mean, the experience we had March 9, February 23, they are worrying. And we are here exactly for the fact that there are quite a number of things that could have been avoided, And I think in many ways, it speaks to things that we know have always affected our elections, logistics, issues of security. They are things that, dating back to 1999, have always been with us. And one would have thought that, with elections after elections, we should actually be getting better. That doesn't seem to have been the case this immediate past elections. And I think that if you speak with the average Nigerian out there, they just want to move on. We were at the middle of our elections when Senegal had its own election. And in less than 48 hours, it's gone.
But now, people make the argument that Senegal is much smaller, it's apples and oranges, so we shouldn't really compare.
So, Ijoma, it's not about the size. We had 84 million people coming out for the presidential elections. We had the challenges that we had. Now we are talking about supplementary elections. In total, we are expecting less than 1 million voters. But we're still experiencing this. Many people woke up this morning with, the planning, the officers got there on time, logistics, we got it right. But the same kind of issues that we had when it was 84 million also played out today. We had thugs basically taking over the place and chasing away voters where they feel, this is an important place we need to protect, or we try and reduce the number of those who have opportunity to vote. And these, for me, are the fundamental things that we need to deal with. Now, it doesn't really matter how well our electoral laws have been written, how well our constitution is written. Ultimately, it comes down to how well are we able to organize our elections and apply those rules. And unfortunately, we cannot afford to continue to have a situation where a handful of people decide to disorganize the elections and we do nothing about them. So if I was to go back to the questions you posed to earlier about what should be the immediate concerns, we need to recognize first that the elections are not done and dusted. Now, moving on further, you will expect that those who might be aggrieved as a result of what has happened would need to go to court. Now, we need to encourage them to do exactly that. In 2011, the 2011 elections went very well until a few days after the elections. And we had a situation where thousands eventually ended up being killed in the post-election violence. So we shouldn't take it that the elections that we have had, the 2019 elections, is done and dusted. I think right now, we should be paying attention to what happens at the courts. People need to be encouraged to go to the court. I'm so excited that it is while we are having all of these elections that the tribunal made its pronouncement in Osun State.
Even though that will go to appeal.
Even though that will go to appeal. But I think for me, it's pointing to the fact that it doesn't really matter whether it's APC or PDP that's in office. We can still trust the judiciary to do its bid. So first and foremost is to encourage, if you are aggrieved, please go to court. That's number one. Number two, we need to also monitor what then happens in the court. Now, like I said, I was explaining to someone, off camera. When people compete in an exercise, as long as the rules are fair to them, the processes is trusted to be fair, I think there is a chance that it's only logical to expect that the outcome too will likely be taken as fair. And so people will feel less, less likely to want to take up arms and compete or contest with the outcomes or the process or the rule in and of itself. And so right now, that should also be part of what we should be paying attention to. Let
me put you on pause and go to Samson Itodo. Samson, immediately after the presidential election on the 23rd of February, I remember hearing you report back, and largely you said, even though, things were not exactly perfect, there were a lot of imperfections, to use a general phrase, about that election, but that on the whole, it may not have been as bad as was initially made out to be. But it would then appear that having done that on the 23rd of February, the 9th came, the 9th of March came, and then now we have today, the 23rd of March. If you take it from the 23rd and what you said then and now, is it a downward slope, is it an even keel, or is it an upward slope?
Thank you very much, Ladi. Let me use the phrase that for us at Yaga Africa, we used when we issued our report on the presidential elections. We said the 2019 elections were not the elections that Nigerians deserved. They were not the elections that Nigerians expected. And we lost an opportunity to consolidate on the gains of the 2015. And we did highlight some issues within the electoral process that requires urgent attention because they can potentially undermine the integrity of our electoral process, even though our PVT estimates based on results from sampled polling units aligned with the results declared by INEC because the results fell within our margin of error. But we also detected other errors. If you look at the elections, both from the February 23rd down to the March 9th and down to the March 23rd, quite frankly, we degenerated all throughout the elections in different aspects of our election management. First, with respect to logistics, The logistics for the March 9th, as well as the logistics for today's supplementary election, recorded an improvement from the February 23rd. However, there were critical issues that border on the integrity of these elections. One is the enforcement or the compliance with electoral guidelines. You can see that from the presidential elections where you had National Assembly elections, if you look at the case in Abia, for instance, where a return and a declaration was made when it ought not to be made because that election didn't meet the conditions for declaration, because the margin of lead was lower than the total number of the registered of voters in cancelled polling units. So a return was not supposed to be made at that election. But you see in other places it was applied. So this variance in the application of the electoral guidelines cast a lot of doubt on the part of voters in the electoral process. The second was around voter turnout. You can see that for the 3 series of elections, even though we've not gotten the figures for today, but the voter turnout seemed to have nosedived from the February 23rd. And like we said, it may not be unconnected with the way this election was managed, as well as the threats of violence and also the securitization, or what you call the militarization of our electoral process. And this raises a huge source of concern. The third issue was the role that the security agencies played. And from the presidential down to the March 9th, you could clearly see that the security agencies, particularly the military, performed poorly in the management of election security. And we're very, very clear. In the governorship election, for instance, in Rivers, in Akwa Ibom, in Benue, where collation centers were shot to observers. In some places, observers were actually chased. And I tell you, the military had written to civil society. Yiga Africa had received an invitation from the military, the committee investigating the conduct of the military in the elections. And we forwarded our reports on the locations where military men interfered with the process, which is totally unacceptable. Fourthly, is the role that our political parties actually play. And you can see beyond the level of desperation is the impunity at which our politicians undermine the process, from the presidential down to the governorship, as well as today's election. I just wonder, how is it that our politicians are so desperate that they resort to court to procure judgment, either to remove resident electoral commissioners or to redeploy resident electoral commissioners, or like we have seen, to restrain INEC from further conducting its own affairs and activities. And that is really, really worrisome. And so all through this election, and that's why our conclusion is this election was not the elections Nigerians deserve. We cannot be having an election where rather than counting votes, we are counting body bags. That's totally unacceptable. In other climes, elections are not is a civilian affair where citizens go to exercise their rights, but not an activity where citizens actually go to lose their life. And that's something that we need to address. You can also see on the human rights perspective, where the rights of journalists, the rights of observers, the rights of voters have been abused by state forces and by political actors. That is also unacceptable. And lastly is around vote buying. All through this election, we've seen the prevalence of vote trading across board. Despite the condemnations, despite the reconfiguration of the polling units to protect the secrecy of the ballot, we've seen incidences where voters, where politicians actually procure votes of voters. And these are critical issues. And for me, we have come to a point where there is need for Nigeria as a country to audit the 2019 elections. We must audit first logistics management. Why did we postpone the elections? And who are those who are responsible for that? Now, I think that Nigerians need to know. as we plan towards 2023. And that information would help us, in planning for 2023.
Because it's one of those days
so
when things are happening fast and
that
furious,
we require,
and we actually need to check in with some of our correspondents. So apologies, I will have to cut in so we can check in with some of our correspondents. And when last we left Idris Jibrin, he told us it was about to start. We understand that coalition has started in Kano. And so let's